All right. Does anybody have agenda items for today? Because there was nothing that came through on the mailing list or the Slack.
Maybe I can share some updates regarding the OPI VPN bridge and the things that are up there right
Okay.
now.
It's not an agenda item, but I took action last week to supply materials from Red Hat Summit. I have asked for them. They're still being prepared, and I'll provide them once they're ready.
Okay. I will give people a couple more minutes and then get going. All right. Demetrius, go ahead and give the update. Do you want to share a screen?
I was not prepared to share my screen,
No, that's
so
okay then. So go.
so I would prefer not to share right now because I was not prepared and I'm not sure what I have open in my
That's fine.
computer. Yeah.
We're
Okay. So
no, but go ahead.
yeah, so I just wanted to give like a short update on what is happening with the upstreaming of the VPN gateway functionality. So we normally no, normally I mean we try to upstream code in four different repos, right? The first one is OPI API. The second one is OPI VPN bridge. The third one is GoDPU, which is the CLI client for the EVPN use case. And the fourth one is on the EVPN gateway CNI repo. So the OPI API pull request and the GoDPU pull requests has been merged. Those two main pull requests. So we have updated the OPI API according to the architecture design that we have presented in the past on the TSC, and also the GoDPU, which is the CLI client. Has been adapted to that new API. Regarding the OPI VPN bridge, which is the main application that takes care the configuration and offloading of the VPN gateway functionality to an IPU, the PR that is related to the configuration of the slow path and to the implementation of the initial architecture has been merged. It is the drop 05 PR has been merged in the past, and let me share that link in case that you would like to, like the people here would like to take a look. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, so this is the drop 05 PR as we are calling it, and it includes like the implementation of the architecture that has been presented on the TSC and all and the full configuration of the slow path in an Intel Mount Everest CPU with also a working CI. And yeah, and today we have opened the drop one pull request, which includes all the modules that are related to the fast path configuration. So you can have a full EVPN offload functionality on an IPU and to have a working fast path. This PR we have been opened for reviewing right now, but it's not like fully ready because we are seeing some problem in the fast path and not all the traffic is running on the fast path. But we have opened the PR in order to enable reviews. Early reviews, and in parallel we are gonna continue working on having a fully fast path working, so we are gonna update that PR with some fixes also. But because is a bit big, we have already opened it so people can actually give early reviews on that. And on the AVPN gateway CNI side, Boris has left some comments there. I have addressed those comments, and according to Mark Sanders, all the comments has been resolved, and we hope that it will be merged. This PR will be merged also soon. So this is the PR of the EVPN gateway CNI, which we think that as a first base PR is ready, and because it's quite because it is quite some time up there and unmerged, we can probably merge that as the first implementation of OPI Gateway VPN CNI. And if we find any problems in the future or we want to do any more enhancements, we can do that with additional PRs. This is the updates that I have so far for EVPN Gateway. And of course, according to the drop one PR on OPI VPN bridge, other vendors can actually see what we have done in order to have a fully working fast path, and they can propose their own PRs following what we have done in drop one, so they can introduce their own vendor plugin when it comes to the fast path of loading of rules in the pipeline in order to accommodate different cards like NVIDIA cards or Marvell or whatever else. So if they're interested, I'm happy to explain what's happening in those PRs and get them on board and try to develop something for other cards also.
Yesterday on the lab meeting, Mersha said that he was unable to make the EVPN gateway work with the OPI bridge, only with standard FRR. It was working. So can we take it offline, maybe work with Mersha? Mersha, you on the call?
Yes. We can continue working with Mirsha. We have tried to actually make that work on the OPI lab. But the card, the MEV card that they have there is a bit different with the MEVs cards that we have in our lab, so we need to do some adjustments, and we didn't have enough time regarding to do that for the summit that Mircea wanted to actually present that. So for sure we can take that offline and help Mircea reach that goal.
I actually log issue, I believe, because I tried the same on a Bluefield 3 and it didn't work there either. And the requirement on having more interfaces and all this will make it not generic to run on all the cards, will make it stuck only to the MEV card. So I think there needs to be some enhancements to be able to run it on all cards and not have so many dependencies on the MEV interfaces.
I mean, we try to do it as generic as possible, but of course we have never tried it in other cards. So we need to take that case by case, really, and see what is missing from the generic part when it comes to the to other cards, so we can enhance the code for sure. We have never tried in other cards, So we think that we have made that generic enough, but of course, maybe things are missing.
So personally, I'm okay with starting with Mount Evans and then extend it to Bluefield. That's fine. My ideal would be if in the POC in the lab, we will have the automatic test, Dimitrios, that covers the AVPN gateway end-to-end on the real hardware. That would be the ideal scenario.
Yeah, we can work on that for sure, Boris. No worries.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Do you understand why there's difficulty in bringing it up on other cards, Demetrius? Could you explain why it didn't just work? I mean, other than the fact that you didn't try it, but I mean, do you know where where the portability is missing and what you would have to do to fix it? Or have you not investigated yet?
We haven't investigated yet. I cannot say right now. Really, of course, in order to have it working on the other cards, some vendors need to provide their own plugins for their own cards because there's some differences even in Linux.
Yeah, what plugin for those?
What? Sorry?
What plugin is needed to run on, say, a Bluefield 3?
It needs so we use a different kind of representer interfaces in IPU in the Mount Evans IPU and different kind of representer interfaces on Bluefield. So the architecture is not the same in those two cards. So according to the architecture that they have in those two cards, we need to provide like different plugins for the cards, and that's why we have this modular design. So we can so each vendor can actually provide their own plugin where it misses where the architecture is a bit different, so we can adjust on the generic part.
Guys,
Joe,
let's
if you remember,
if we can put the Bluefield aside for a second, have we tried this on a Marvell?
Yeah, that was my next question. Thanks a lot. Perfect.
No, we haven't tried to run at least as far as I know, we have never tried to run the VPN gateway bridge on a card apart on a different card than Mount Evans.
Yeah, so that's a critical step
Mhm.
within OPI. And again, we have a Marvell in the lab, do we not?
we also have Mount Evans, and it's still not working on Mount Evans. So I'm okay with a crawl, walk, run. Let's
Sure.
work on the Mount Evans that we have on the lab, and then absolutely extend it to others.
Yes, I agree with that.
Joe, if you
Let's-
remember the architecture of the EVPN gateway, as Dimitrios and the team made it, they have the Netlink Watcher module, and this is where the vendor plugins come. So you configure everything through the Netlink, and then the vendors provide the Netlink Watcher modules, which are vendor specific, that will take the events coming from the EVPN gateway and then configure their own hardware stack. So that, I think, is where each
Yeah.
vendor needs to supply this proprietary piece.
Yeah, this is the one vendor plugin, and the second one is the Linux vendor plugin, as I call it, which um, it 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 um, it accommodates the differences between the cards when it comes to the Linux side. So, for instance, in the Mount Evans architecture, we have some interfaces that we use in order to configure them so we can drive packets on the exception path, as we call it, from the fast path to the slow path. So to do ARP handling, for instance. But this is specific for Mount Evans architecture, those interfaces. When you have Bluefield, for instance, you have different representative interfaces and different ways that actually get those packets up to the slow path. So a small Linux vendor plugin also will be needed in when we have a Bluefield. So I will say it's like it's definitely two plugins. One is the vendor plugin, like the hardware, the offloaded plugin, let's say, which is used to actually offload the rules down on the fast path, and the other one is the Linux vendor plugin, which it takes care of the specifics on the Linux side of its card, because even on the Linux you have some specifics that for its card.
For example, in the existing implementation specifically for Mount Evans, the translation, which is vendor-specific plugin of DataPass, FastPass, is using P4 pipelines. So this is
Yes,
just example where what the vendor plugin we are talking about. I
yes.
hope that makes sense, and I also share the links in the chat.
Okay, so but you said it's not up on the Mount Evans that's in the lab server yet.
Yeah, Demetrius and Mersha need to debug it, but because the card is a little bit different from what Mersha has in his lab, Demetrius has in his lab, so it's just a matter of debugging and making it work.
Yeah, we can have sessions in order to do that because I will need also the help from Intel guys that we have in our team because they know the card better than me when it comes to the specifics of the card.
Yeah, I would make this a priority. Like, let's make it work, and then once we have it and we have automatic end-to-end testing in the lab itself on the physical hardware, we can then extend the same success to the other vendors.
I agree.
Pending the vendors provide their plugin, right? I don't think that NVIDIA provided the plugin for the Docker library, right? We need
Well,
netlink to Docker, right? Something like that, Dimitrios?
I mean, in our setup, we have this Netlink Watcher module, okay? And what this Netlink Watcher module, as you have pasted there, is the module that actually reads the configuration from the Linux kernel and translate that to P4 rules down on the pipeline by contacting the P4 vendor plugin.
Yeah. So
Okay.
for NVIDIA, we need the same for Docker, and Docker will
Yeah,
come.
I don't know NVIDIA how they want to do that. They can use that Netlink Watcher module that we provide. They can provide their own Netlink Watcher module. That is fine, but we need to investigate on that. I cannot tell right now.
Maybe Oren can help us with that. I saw at some documentation there is a Netlink Watcher that NVIDIA did for Netlink to Docker, something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's possible.
I'll try to ask around.
and so I guess the same question to Satyananda.
Yeah, so our thing is mostly DPDK, so we would have to do something netlink to DPDK RTE flow, but yeah, I think it's possible.
Yeah, I mean the vendor plugin that we have, it uses P4. For NVIDIA, it should be something related to RT flow. I agree.
So I found already documentation on the public website for NVIDIA. It's called Netlink to Docker daemon. I publish it in the chat since this is a public documentation, so we can try to integrate with Netlink to Docker daemon. It's part of the Docker HBN service.
All good information.
Yeah, and of course we will need help from NVIDIA in order to guide us through and how to adapt, really.
If
Because
you
I
look
have
at the documentation, it looks very similar to the architecture, Dimitrios, that your team came up with.
Okay.
It seems like with Bluefield, you have to choose between DPDK or Docker. You could do it either way. Maybe NVIDIA would recommend which way they'd like us to.
That is correct, and we would rather do it in Docker.
Okay.
Yeah, again, that's fine because that interface into the vendor library is by and large up to the vendor, the way we've structured the OPI efforts. Or we would like it to be up to the vendor and provided by the vendor across all these projects.
Yeah, so I think the Netlink to Docker that NVIDIA already has is a very good candidate to integrate. We just need to see if there are any gaps and see how we mitigate the gaps that can easily plug into the OPI EVPN gateway, and how open NVIDIA will be to make small adjustments to the existing daemon. Or we need to re-architect some things to make it work. That will be, I think, the major hurdle adopting that, but I think that's a good direction if NVIDIA is willing to work with us on this. And I assume, Joe, we would like Bluefield 3 for this, and we still haven't ordered one. So from the lab perspective, we are missing Bluefield 3 right now. We only have Bluefield 2 in
Yeah,
our lab. So we would like to place an order, or NVIDIA will contribute one. So either way, we're fine, but we need to make a decision fast so we can ship it and reckon
yeah,
stack it.
I believe we can order one. Murcia, so I guess Sridhar, we still have enough budget to order a Bluefield 3, correct?
Yeah, yes, we do have budget. Yeah.
All right, let's just order one, and maybe we can get a consortium educational discount on it, but to conserve our funds. But let's go ahead and get one of those ordered.
The quote first is a discount and stuff.
You broke up, Murcha. I didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. I was saying we need a quote. If Elad can help us with a quote, it will be great.
Yeah, Laud, would you mind doing that?
Sure, but NVIDIA doesn't sell direct. So tell me which reseller you want to go to, and I'll be able to build it.
That will be for Sridhar. I'm not sure which one. Linux Foundation prefers. Okay,
Pick a reseller,
email,
and we can apply F&R pricing.
Okay. All right, we'll take that offline. So Sridhar, could you figure out what reseller we should go through?
I'll try. I don't know if I have that knowledge. Yeah, I'll try.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
No, I don't have contacts of any resellers. I can try. I will see if I can get that.
To make it easy, does Linux Foundation do business with CDW?
No, nothing with hardware. Only with software vendors. Yeah.
But I mean, do you have a relationship with CDW so that we could get a PO, a quote from them?
That's what I need to check. I will check and get back.
Okay, thanks.
Joe, we can also try buying a Dell server with pre-installed Bluefield 3 card, for example, right? As one
I think that will actually be easier.
Yeah.
Pre-installed, pre-configured, all of them. With a power cable and everything.
And that we know can come from, yeah. We
And
can have
that can-
CDW.
Yeah, okay. All right, so because it's on the so Sridhar, can you reach out to the CDW and get a quote for
Yeah, I will do that.
Dell server with Bluefield 3 pre-installed?
Yeah,
All right.
I'll do that.
And you can talk to Alad, Paul, Boris, and Murcia for if you need help.
Sure.
All right, so that's useful actually. What else? All good stuff so far. Anything else?
I don't have something else.
Okay, so I agree. It's useful to get this running on the labs, Mount Evans. Extend it to the Marvell card we already have. Get a Bluefield 3 and extend it to that. It's again a proof point that you can actually make this stuff work at this level.
One more point on the lab, Joe. Currently, the lab is fully manual. I did an attempt to automate everything with Ansible. I posted the link in the chat. The Ansible playbook that I wrote for automating our entire lab. I think we need to come up with a good strategy how we're going to manage the lab. I would try to bring, for example, canonical BMS as a managing system for our servers and DPU cards. But I don't have any contacts right now in canonical. But I am also open to other managing system like Open Managed Enterprise or something else. But I think that our lab needs to be managed a little bit better. from the automation perspective. So either Ansible or a real product like BMS or Ironic or something else. I don't really mind, but I would like something more appropriate for the lab management.
I think we already said we want to use mass.
Moss, okay, so what does it take to install that, Murchie, if you've looked at it? What, I mean, do you need anything to do it, or is it just work?
I think just time.
I think it's just work.
Okay.
But we also need to buy licenses, no?
We said we were gonna use a community free one first,
Okay.
or something like this.
I remember Canonical at some point joined our API calls, so maybe we can reach out to the contacts and let them help us installing it. If it makes any sense.
All right. Fair enough. Any other discussion on that one? On lab automation? All right. Any other topics? All right. No other topics, then useful call. Let's see what we can do on the purchase, lab automation, and getting the OPI VPN bridge up and running across all of the flavors of DPUs. All right. Thank you.
I have a question before we break up. Are there any plans to create a OPI bridge that then have attached to it the EVPN bridge, IPsec bridge, XYZ bridge? Because right now, if I want to run IPsec, EVPN, and so on, I need to keep adding those bridges. Can we have a master bridge that takes all the other as plugins, or what are the future plans for designing, I don't know, bringing all these features together?
I mean, right now, no. It's just getting the individual bridges working across all of the flavors of DPUs is the current approach. That sounds like a good topic for the API working group. Can we make a common bridge API that all the other bridges use transparently? It would
The
ultimately,
API, it's in a way common. I think not the API is a problem.
well, so again, it depends on where you put the line, right? Because if we did a quote OPI bridge, we would still have to adapt to each of the vendors. And the bridge adapter should be reusable by other kinds of bridges. Though, I mean, there's the right, the EVPN bridge uses again, the adapters with small adjustments should be usable by other bridges. So at some level, having a set of plugins that can plug into the different bridges is equivalent to having a middleware that has each of the specific bridges plugging into that middleware, which plugs into the adapters. It's just, it's not really different. It's not really a different result unless you think there's a way to structure it that is, which case it'd be great to see that. Bring that in, bring that idea in. Richard, is that discussion?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. But I again, if you're like, no, you're misunderstanding. Look, this is a cleaner way to do it. Bring that into and let's review it. Let's discuss it. If we're missing some cleaner way to layer and structure. But, again, right now, using the combination of the netlink events and the common interface config, which probably has to be worked out, then we should be set, because that's kind of a standard Linuxy way to go about this problem. For better or worse. I mean, there's no value judgment. Just it's sort of the typical way this kind of thing is addressed. But if there's a better way, it'd be great to hear it. Any other comments, questions? Okay, that's a wrap. Later.